Welcome back to the Stadium Journey podcast. Proud to be part of the HIAC Talk Radio Network and VOC Nation. Stadium Journey is the stadium review leader for the sports fan with full stadium reviews of over 2,600 sporting venues in 61 countries. Check out all of our reviews on our website, stadiumjourney.com. You can also check us out on all our social media channels. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at Stadium Journey. And now you can check out the podcast on YouTube. Stay tuned for that. In addition to Stadium Journey, follow HIAC Talk Radio on Twitter at HIAC Talk Radio. You can still find all of our great content over at vocnation.com. And now for those of you in the mood for just more than just audio, we tried to say, all of the great HIAC radio podcasts are available on YouTube. Now, let me take 1 minute and introduce the team. I'm Paul Baker. You can follow my Stadium Journeys on Twitter at PuckmanRI. With me, once again, as always, is Dave Cotney. Dave, where can our listeners follow your journeys online?
You can follow me wearing a cap that does not belong in any independent baseball league at ProFan9 on Twitter and Instagram.
And also
I'm
with
fresh out. I do not have one.
That's okay. We'll forgive you this time.
It's Mark Viquez with us once again. Mark, where can our listeners follow your journeys online?
You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Ballpark Hunter.
And last but certainly not least is our producer, not coming to us today. Well, he's coming to us, but he's on his deathbed, I believe. It's Dan Calachico, the above-average comedian. Dan, are you talking to us today, or am I going to just let our listeners know where to follow you? I wanted to hear the rasp, but I guess we're not going to do that. You can follow Dan on Twitter at DanLaw83. And we are very excited tonight to have joining us the Director of Broadcasting and Media for the St. Paul Saints, Sean Aronson. Sean, thanks for coming on to the podcast. And do you want to take a second to promote your online presence or the Saints' online presence?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll do both. The Saints are at ST Paul Saints on Twitter, pretty much every platform. And then for myself, it's at The Voice BTV. So at The Voice BTV.
Excellent. And Sean, I wanted to start by reading your bio on the St. Paul Saints website, but of course, right before we started, I closed it down. So maybe I'll do that in a minute. But the Saints just won the championship of the American Association, right?
Yes, we did a couple of days ago, actually Saturday night now, and everybody was excited. It was an incredible season. It was a magical ride, and we're still kind of riding that high right now.
And you celebrated, as you do typically, I guess, in independent leagues, and the Saints are known for kind of thinking outside the box, being wacky. You guys had a parade to celebrate the championship, but it wasn't your usual parade.
No, it wasn't. Everybody has these 2, 3, 4 mile long parades that culminate at a ballpark or a stadium or an arena, and hundreds of thousands of people come out. Well, we knew that wasn't going to happen, so we decided to hold a 1 block, 1 minute long parade. And it was better than we could have ever hoped. It was incredible. We had a 3-person marching band that played When the Saints Go Marching In. We had our entertainment staff there. We had our mascot. We had probably about 7 or 8 players that were there riding on like a John Deere lawnmower, on a golf cart, on a big-wheeled bicycle. It was tremendous. It lasted a little longer than a minute. Probably lasted about 3 minutes long, but it was worth it. And I would tell you, probably 200 to 300 people showed up for the parade, which was more than we would have ever expected.
That's fantastic. And I did actually just pull up your bio, so I want to share this with the listeners.
Go for it.
This is what you can expect when you go to St. Paul. This is Sean's bio on the St. Paul Saints website. You can check that all out if you like, saintsbaseball.com. So it says Sean Michael Aronson was born Jose Tariq Oshansky. Little mixed race going on there, right?
That's right.
On May 13th, 1977, on a farm in the Virgin Islands. He, along with his peasant parents, made their way to the United States as part of the Witness Protection Program, where young Jose had to change his name to Sean. They moved to the mountains in Montana, where Sean grew up wrestling bears and chasing wolves in the middle of the night. He lived a life of hardship, owning one pair of torn pants and shoes made from cardboard. He vowed to make it big and give back to his parents, who had 5 jobs each just to make ends meet. Sean left the countryside of Montana for bigger things in LA, where he was a cast member on the original Real World. It was there that he discovered and came up with the idea of Survivor, selling the rights to Mark Burnett. He made his first million at the age of 17 and made it to the Fortune 500 at the age of 19. He got into broadcasting as a hobby at the age of 23 and got his first broadcasting gig at 24. 2 years later, he landed a job with the Miracle, and after 4 years in Fort Myers, Sean wanted to move to a place with cold winters and below freezing temperatures to toughen him back up, as he felt he became too soft living in 80-degree weather each day. He is now the broadcaster for the Saints, and fans can find him shoveling snow on the highways in the middle of the night in nothing but shorts. His true Hollywood story, titled From the Outhouse to the Penthouse, is due out early next year. Sean, that's quite a ride, man.
I'd like to sit here and tell you that all of that is true, but I think there might be one actual true nugget in that whole thing. But you would be surprised how many people are looking for the media relations director of when I was in Fort Myers or now in St. Paul, and they'll pull up my bio because they're not sure who it is. They'll read my bio, and a lot of people think it's true. Let's just put it that way. It is surprising the amount of people who think what is written in there is true. So, but if I can fool people, that's great. It's all about fun.
Exactly, and that's what the minor leagues and independent leagues especially
that's
are
right.
all about, having fun.
Yeah,
No,
exactly. What I wanted to ask you is, I've been up to the Saints game a couple times the last few years, and this past year you attracted 8,000 fans a game for I think the 4th consecutive year.
For the 5th consecutive year, 5 years in the new ballpark. Yeah.
I mean, those are AAA numbers.
Yep.
Those are not even AA numbers. What has been the secret of success? Is it the wackiness of the minute parade?
That's part of it. I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said that the entertainment and the shenanigans and all the off the wall tomfoolery that we do doesn't play a role in that. But we were in a ballpark, before our current one, which is about 5 years old, and we probably averaged about 5,700 in a 6,000 person ballpark. And then we built this beautiful new ballpark 5 years ago, and all of a sudden the attendance shot through the roof, and we were averaging over 8,000 people. It's not uncommon for us to draw 9,000 or 10,000 people on a given night. And I just think it's the whole atmosphere. I think it was the ballpark. I think it's the fact that we've been around a while. I think the fact that we were ahead of the curve back in 1993 when the Saints first started. And I think it's the fact that we keep going with that fun is good motto today that is the reason that we draw so well.
Now, you personally were probably inspired by Mike Veck down in Fort Myers. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, look, Mike had his hand in Fort Myers. The ownership group has since sold the team in Fort Myers. They did that about, I think, 3 years ago or so. But when I was there, Mike and Marv Goldklang and Bill Murray owned the Miracle, and they brought me up to St. Paul 13 years ago. So to be honest with you, it's that mentality that they have, that they're willing to take chances. They're willing to, I'd say, straddle the line. Maybe sometimes we cross the line, but definitely straddle that line. That it's great to work for an organization and for an ownership group that believes in that.
Yeah, and how easy is that? Because we see other independent teams. We see some teams are being evicted from their stadium. Yeah. We see some other teams are ceasing operations. Other teams are kind of going back and forth whether they're going to play or not. Is it that easy, or is that 26-year head start the secret to the success for the Saints?
Well, I think if it was that easy, everybody would draw capacity crowds. So it's not. And look, we're able to get away with a lot of things because, again, I believe we were one of the first to really do this, to really set minor league baseball on its head and do things that nobody else was doing. So we are the bar, if you will. I mean, people look to us every year of what kind of crazy things are you going to do. So I think that helped. If you're first to the table with something, then you're instantly going to be, the most popular, and people are going to recognize you. And then there are going to be a lot of copycats. Now, look, I'm not going to sit here and say we've never stolen from someone or seen an idea that we like and try to make it our own. I think that's what this industry is all about. There's nothing wrong with stealing good ideas. But because we were first to this, and we won that race, we were just the most popular, and I think that benefits. It's also a detriment to us, though. Like every year I get asked by the media, so what kind of promotions do you have this year? And it's a constant game of, can you top this? And we're trying to top ourselves. We're not trying to top anybody else. We're trying to top the St. Paul Saints. And that's difficult to do when you're constantly trying to top yourself. That's very hard to do. So it's a benefit and a detriment to us.
So Sean, with talking about all of these wacky things you guys run, and I'll be completely honest, I'm very unfamiliar.
Sure.
How hard has it been for you to keep people? Like if you guys, you said that you are kind of the leader, the first. How's the turnover been for like your marketing team and whatnot? Has that been a challenge? Have people sort of used, sometimes ball players will use the Saints as a springboard, but has your marketing team and whatnot used the Saints as a springboard?
I'll say this. So we have a specific person whose title is Director of Promotions and Marketing. She runs both our promotions and our marketing side of things. But to be honest with you, we're all marketing directors. Like if you work in minor league baseball, you don't need that title. You are just a marketing director, because any good organization is going to seek out ideas from everybody that works there. But to answer your question, we've had less turnover since we moved into the brand new ballpark. Like the world is good for us. You draw, over 8,000 fans in a 7,200 seat ballpark. We do well on the business side. The organization takes care of us. And so when you work for an organization that takes care of you, both with your needs in terms of the ballpark and the things that it provides, but also on the financial side, when an organization does that, it knows how to keep its people. And so we've had a lot less turnover than we used to when we were in the other ballpark. When you'd show up to work every day and it was in a rundown ballpark and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and that old ballpark, I went there in 1995 as a young kid, and I remember walking in there and thinking, what the heck, jerk chicken being cooked? They had a pig out there. I think Dal Strawberry was playing for the team at the time. I was floored by what I saw there. And even when I went out there a couple years ago, you had the food trucks come out on the warning track after the game, and you brought all the fans out to the field.
Yep. Yeah, we still do the food truck thing too. It's something that we started in the first year of the ballpark at CHS Field, and something that fans loved, and that's what Lower Town St. Paul is about, right? Like all these food trucks down there, it's a part of the makeup down there, and we just wanted to include that into the ballpark. When we moved down to Lower Town, we wanted to be a part of the neighborhood. We didn't want to be the neighborhood. Like we didn't want to take over things. We just wanted to find our little niche and just be a part of it. And I think that's what we've done.
Nice. That's actually a great segue into what I wanted to bring up, because we started off talking about all the crazy things that are done in indie ball, but that's not going to keep the fans coming back. You got to have some substance there. So I was going to ask, what kind of things are you doing to draw repeat customers back?
Yeah, look, I think if you come out to a ball game and you're enjoying yourself, right, you're laughing, you're having a good time, you're bringing your family out, and people are genuinely having a good time, they're going to come back, right? That's what it is. It's our motto forever has been fun is good. And that's what we're trying to convey when people walk through. So as long as we've done our job on that side of things, people will continue to come back. And on top of that, you have to keep it fresh. If you're doing the same promotions over and over again, if you're doing the same on-field promotions, if you're doing the same theme nights over and over again, if you're not continuously trying to evolve, then people aren't going to come back because they've seen the same thing over and over again. Like we all can find who our favorite comic is, but you can only watch his stand-up routine or her stand-up routine so many times while they're trying to work it out for their 1 hour special, right? And then you watch the 1 hour special, you can only watch it so many times before you know every single joke and it's not funny anymore. So that's what we have to do. And I liken what we do to a good comic. There's a beat to what we do in terms of the jokes that we're doing, or the interactive comedy, or whatever it may be. And so I think we're a lot like a stand-up comic, in that. And I think I don't want to say we've perfected it, because we'll never perfect it, but I think we've gotten very good at it. And it starts at the top. They give us our executive vice president, general manager, Derek Scherer, our ownership group. They give us total autonomy to come up with wacky ideas. And I think that is the sign of a good organization.
Now, you did the Mary Tyler Moore night with the two. Are you going to do Rhoda Morgenstein night this year? The scarf that she made famous on the show.
Look, I'm open to any ideas, to be honest with you. We have not even, I promise, we haven't even started thinking about 2020. But we did it, obviously. Mary Tyler Moore, the show was filmed there. There's a statue of her in Minneapolis. She had just passed away. And so we wanted to do something to honor her, because I think it was the year before that, Prince had passed away. We did a big night with honoring Prince, and we had 10,000 people show up. So we wanted to do something with Mary Tyler Moore. We did it on opening night. We handed out those, little caps like that. And in a designated, half inning, we played the opening theme song and had everybody throw them in the air, just like she did in the opening credits. So, again, it's about having fun and knowing how to have fun, sometimes with serious subjects. And I think that's what we're very good at.
Yeah, and that's something very simple to do. And even though that show came on almost 50 years ago, we all love Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether from our parents or reruns.
That's right.
One thing I really love about your ballpark, I love the look of it. I love the style. It blends into the neighborhood. And then once you walk in, you got these colorful characters that roam around the stadium entertaining fans. Nerdettes, Gert the Flirt.
Yep.
Where did that idea stem from?
Yeah, so those are called usher-tainers. So they're like your normal ushers are people that will show you to your seat and stuff like that, which we have. But these are usher-tainers. They are people that will walk up and down the aisles, interact with the fans who they're not baseball fans, but these are actors and actresses that create their own characters, and that's their character usually for the entire season, unless they find that something's not working, and then they'll change it up. But there are staples, like you mentioned, Nerdette, Gert the Flirt. Gert the Flirt's, for those people that don't know, is an elderly woman that goes around with an inflatable baseball bat, and she spanks people on the rear end with the baseball bat, and then she's got lipstick kisses that she gives people on their cheek, and people love it. And so look, the idea came about long before I was around, and again, I've been around for 13 years, and we just finished our 27th season, but in a way of an idea utilizing Minnesota and specifically the Twin Cities that, believe it or not, I'm pretty sure has more actors and actresses per capita than Los Angeles does, where I'm from. I've never met more actors and actresses, and I lived in Southern California for 18 years. So it seems like at every turn, there's an actor and actress you run into, and I think they wanted to utilize that, and they thought the best way to do that was to create these usher-tainers, and that's how it came about.
So I'm looking on your Wikipedia page here for the Saints, and some of these promotions that you guys have done. The Minnesota Atheists one is interesting. And one thing that kind of jumped out at me is you have mentioned about pushing the envelope. Have you guys gotten into any kind of serious trouble where you've had not the great embracing, but some backlash?
Oh, sure. And I'll give you two, and you brought up one of them. So the Atheist Night came about. There was a billboard on the highway that was promoting the fact that the atheists were having their national convention in the Twin Cities. And this had to be 7-8 years ago now. And one of our salespeople was driving and saw the billboard. And like any good salesperson, they reached out to the atheists and said, hey, notice you're having your national convention. You guys aren't going to be doing stuff 24/7, so why don't you take a night and come out to the ballpark? Bring a group out. And they said, that's a great idea. And then they asked the question, what would it cost to sponsor an entire night? And so the salesperson told them, and the person said, great, we'd love to sponsor the entire night. Now, the night was called A Night of Unbelievable Fun, presented by the Atheists. And it was going to be a night that highlighted things that people believe in that don't exist, right? The Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, aliens, things of that nature. Look, if you believe in aliens, great. I'm not trying to, disparage you from doing that. But for the most part, things that aren't real out there, that have no tangible, just like the atheists, again, they don't believe in that there's a God. So they wanted us to have fun with this. Well, they posted that they were hosting a night at the ballpark. Some blogger saw this and said, the Saints are hosting Atheist Night at the ballpark, which was not what it was. It was a night of unbelievable fun presented by the Minnesota Atheists. Well, this blogger put this out there. A media person in the Twin Cities saw this and regurgitated what the blogger wrote. And then it caught, it blew up after that. People saw it, and no one called us to find out what this night was. It made it so far, it made it to Fox News, like not our local Fox affiliate, but like Fox News. And they crucified us for this. And we got, I'm telling you, we got handwritten hate mail. We got emails. We got people saying they would never spend $1 with us again. I mean, it was unbelievable. We had, and this is why I love working for the organization I do. We had a meeting that must have lasted 3 minutes on whether we should do this night or not. And in 3 minutes, we said, we know what this night is about. We're going to do it. And we did. And you know what happened? Nothing. Nobody picketed out in front of the ballpark. No one tried to burn the ballpark down. And the night was so successful that the atheists wanted to do it the following year. And so we did it the next year, a night of unbelievable fun, the second coming. And it was a huge success. And we ran it for about, I think, 5 or 6 years. And then the novelty wore off. Again, that's the thing, right? You've seen the joke over and over again, and it doesn't have the shock value anymore. So the atheists weren't getting out of it what they had been getting out of it for 5, 6 years. So they stopped it. Yeah, that's the one where I've seen the most vitriol. The other one that was my favorite, that we got complaints on both sides, which is how you know you've got a good promotion. we had I think it was a senator from Idaho. He was a senator from Idaho that came to the state of Minnesota. He was in the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport, went into a bathroom stall.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And he tapped his foot up and down 3 times and then slid his foot to the person's foot in the stall next to him and kind of like brushed up against it. Well, in the gay community, this is a calling card saying that you're interested. Well, the problem was that, and this has to be 11 or 12 years ago now. The problem was solicitation had become rampant inside the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport bathrooms, if you can believe that. So the person in the stall next to this guy was an undercover cop. They had staked out the bathrooms. So
I remember the story, yeah.
The senator got arrested. So the sign of a good promotion is it relevant? Is it close to home? Can you make some waves out of it? And so we had to act fast. So we had come up with this idea to do what we called a Bobble Foot, which was a bathroom stall with a foot that bobbled up and down, much like the guy tapping his foot up and down. And this happened in like October or November. So it like 6 or 7 months away from our season. So we put out a press release saying we were doing this night in May, blah, blah, blah. And it got no attention, none whatsoever. Well, in April, the guy gets arraigned. He goes to court. And so we put out the press release, the same exact press release, didn't change it at all. And now it blows up. We're doing interviews from coast to coast. We're on CNN. We're in Sports Illustrated. We're on ESPN. We're on MSNBC. I even heard that, and this tells you how long ago this was. Jay Leno used it as a punchline in his on the Tonight Show, and we gave away, I think it was 2,000 of these Bobble Foot. Well, by the time the gates opened that night, there was about a 2-mile long line of people waiting to get this Bobble Foot, and not only that, they were going on eBay for $250. And I always joke, if I had half a brain, I would have kept a box for myself and sold them for $250 a pop, but I'm not that smart. But the controversy lied on both sides of the aisle. The gay community was mad at us because they thought we were making fun of the gay community. And the other side was mad because we were promoting the gay community. So we heard it from both sides, which is how you know you've got a good promotion, when you piss off both sides. So there you go. And that's what it's like to work for the St. Paul Saints, right there.
Yeah, I don't think that's common in many other
No.
independent teams out there. It's truly one of a kind experience. You know, a lot of people ask me, they say, Mark, what are your favorite ballparks? And I always talk about St. Paul, and some people don't know what independent baseball is, and I have to describe.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't know, Minnesota does not have any affiliated ball. Is that correct?
Not a one.
Yeah, like an affiliated minor league team.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
affiliated minor league team.
Yeah, no, there is not a minor league affiliated team in the state of Minnesota.
By the way, I just looked on eBay. You can get a Saints Bobble Foot for $400 right now.
$400.
$400.
It's gone up in price, huh?
Yeah.
There you go.
I got to see this. I had never heard of this before.
Yeah.
That's,
On top of that, on the bathroom stall on the outside, we wrote "for a good time call" and then put our phone number on there. So much like what you would see inside of a bathroom stall, like when people write. So we wrote on this, or had them put on each one of them "for a good time call" and then put our phone number on them. So that's it's great marketing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah.
So.
A $400 Bobble Foot. I had a Bob Gibson bobblehead that was $25 going for sale. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, unbelievable. What's next for the Saints? This year you opened up the Baseball City Museum, which looks like a fabulous addition to the baseball stadium. Could you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, the City of Baseball Museum, we wanted to honor the history of baseball in the city of St. Paul, as well as the St. Paul Saints. And the Saints' history dates back to the late 1800s. There's so much history there. It used to be a Dodgers affiliate back in the 50s, a Brooklyn Dodgers affiliate. And so, our owner came up with this, Marv Goldklang, who's actually like a 2 or 3% owner of the New York Yankees and has been since the 70s. He came across this little piece of, I think it was like a note or like a promissory note or something like that, that was for the St. Paul Saints back in the early 1900s. And he's like, wow, look, I mean, the history here. And he started digging around and learned a little bit more about the history. And he's like, we should open a museum. And so we did. And it's a free museum that people can come in, and there's a lot of interactive stuff in there. And it also honors the history of baseball in St. Paul. So guys that were born in St. Paul, Dave Winfield, Paul Molitor, Jack Morris, Joe Mauer, so people like that, and it also honors them. It's pretty cool to check out, and really a one of a kind in minor league baseball. I don't think there is a minor league team that has a museum like we do. I mean, it's a little over 2,000 square feet. I mean, it's pretty large for a minor league baseball museum. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we had somebody else review it this year, and they took some pictures of that. I was like, oh wow, I wish I was up there again to see it. I'll actually be up in Minnesota soon. Okay. But it's after the season, so.
Oh, you can come check it out. It's open year round. You gotta let us know, and we'll set up a time.
I gotta let you know. Okay.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay, that's excellent because the stadium just has so many wonderful features, and you collect rainwater that's used to flush the toilets. You have solar panels that are used for electricity. Yep. Just the forward thinking that exists there is just ahead of the curve.
Yep, no doubt.
So, well, we'd like to thank you for coming on here. If anybody else has
got a question,
go ahead.
Dave, got a question? Go for it.
So, independent baseball, you've got quite an eclectic mix of various kinds of players that come through. Some are trying to come up and have never really had a huge minor league career. Some are trying to hang on from a minor league career. Some are actually coming down from the majors. What can you tell us about, or maybe like who have been your favorite players who would have who would have name recognition, who really got what it was like to play for the Saints. And conversely, and you don't have to name names if you don't want to. How many of those major leaguers just don't get it?
Well, I don't know if they don't get it, but there are a bunch of guys that played in affiliated ball that don't know anything about independent baseball. And when they hear independent baseball, I'm sure they think like your weekend beer league softball, right? They just don't know, and they're very apprehensive. But plenty of their former teammates played in independent baseball, so they get recommendations, they hear. So I think they eventually get it. But I would tell you that a lot of people, once they get there, they understand what it's all about. But some of the biggest names we've ever had, Darryl Strawberry played for the St. Paul Saints. Jack Morris played for the St. Paul Saints. Jack Morris actually finished his professional career with the St. Paul Saints. The last game he ever pitched was for the Saints, not for the Twins, not for the Blue Jays, he played for the St. Paul Saints. That was his last game. So, we've had some big names that have come in and played for the Saints, and they get it. Once they get there, they understand what it's all about.
Nice. And since we're the Stadium Journey podcast, I want to ask you a couple of stadium-related questions. It seems like the trend recently, and maybe more in the Frontier League than in the American Association, has been teams jumping ship and leaving indie leagues and going into like summer collegiate leagues where the overhead is a little less.
Yep.
Do you see any storm clouds on the horizon for indie ball?
No, not for indie ball. There are 6 or so independent leagues out there, and some are just not on stable footing, right? I mean, and you've seen the turnover on that side. I would tell you that the Frontier League, the American Association, and the Atlantic League are all fine. I think the Can-Am League.
Being in New England, you don't have to tell me about the Can-Am.
Yeah, you depends who you talk to and what day it is with the Can-Am League.
I think they're gonna have to do some things, but they may restructure. They may do something just to change it up a little bit because I know that there's some teams in that league that are struggling, but what I would like to see is less is more, right? Like you're going to get more talent. Back when the Saints started in '93, maybe a couple of independent leagues out there, maybe just one. I'm not even sure, to be honest with you, but that meant that there was more talent. That's how it was. There was just so much talent, and it was great to see. And I think after a while, you start adding all these independent leagues, and the talent kind of gets watered down. Now, I think we're going back to the way it was because players know, and agents more specifically know, that there are probably 2 or 3 extremely strong leagues. The Frontier League's a little younger, so like if you're a AA guy, you're not going to the Frontier League. So that's usually guys that were in college that didn't get drafted, or a year or 2 out, and they played rookie ball, so they're going to go there. But the American Association and the Atlantic League, I think, are the 2 top dogs, and so now you're starting to see the talent level rise up again because agents understand, players understand, and so therefore those 2 leagues are getting all the big time talent, and I think it's back to the way it was. Look, I'm not adverse to leagues popping up on the West Coast or down south or whatever because it makes it easier maybe for some people to go, but look, you can't just start a league and expect it's going to be successful, right? You can't just open the doors and expect, 15,000 people are going to show up if you build a new ballpark. It doesn't work that way. It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of smart people, and that's not always the way it is. I think there are a lot of people out there just looking for a quick buck that, I'm going to convince XYZ city to build me a new ballpark, and then I'm going to capitalize on that for a year or 2, and then I'm going to get out of Dodge because I've gotten my money, and I can see that, there's no strong support here, and it's all going to fall by the wayside. But I'm going to get out of town before that happens. I've watched that happen before, a few times. So I just think there are some people out there that are looking to make a quick buck, and they give independent baseball a bad name.
Yeah, the Empire Pro League comes to mind when you say that.
Yeah. No, there's
Lake Erie Fielders.
Yeah, it's just that's how it is. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But people see the success of of the American Association, or whatever. Look, I'll use the Saints as an example. People see the Saints and the success that we had, and we built a ballpark 5 years ago. So then you think, well, all I got to do is build a ballpark and people are going to show up. But people have done that and it didn't happen, and they're like, well, how come it didn't work? Well, because they don't see all the hard work that goes into it for 8 months out of the year, and more specifically for 27 years to get to this point. It just doesn't happen overnight. So yeah, go for it.
Outside of course, St. Paul.
Yeah.
What are some of your other favorite stadiums that you would travel to?
Yeah.
In your capacity.
In our league, I'm a big fan of. I like Winnipeg. I like the feel of the city. I like the ballpark. It's a little bit older now, but I do like the ballpark, and I love their fan base. Their fan base, especially in Winnipeg, and I know the Jets have now come back there. But before the Jets got there, they were the only show in town. And I get they got the Bombers and all that, but they're different seasons. I think since the Jets have come there, they've lost a little bit of that, just because now all the focus is on the Jets. But their fan base is great. It's very funny, and I'm sure you guys have seen the stories, but I enjoy going to Kansas City. I mean, I know that the stories have come out that they've got trouble and things may go awry. I think the league is going to step in. I don't think it's going to be a big deal as everyone's making it out to be. But I love the city of Kansas City. I love the atmosphere. Look, I'm a pretty healthy guy, but I won't lie. Partake in barbecue when I go there. It is it's top. It is.
What's your favorite?
I think it's a lot.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So
Joe.
I mean, look, there are good cities that we go to and places I enjoy, and I can find something positive about everywhere we go. Look, your league is only going to be as strong as the weakest link that you have, and all I want to see is our weakest links in our league just get better, because it just makes the entire league better. And I also spent 4 years in the Florida State League. There were plenty of places I loved going. They don't draw as well in the Florida State League. It's not a very good drawing league because it's 90 degrees and 90% humidity in the summer there. But Daytona, which was a Cubs affiliate.
Daytona's nice.
Yeah, I loved going there when I was in Fort Myers. I loved going to Daytona. It's beautiful. I mean, there's the ballpark's right there on the beach. I mean, you can't ask for much better than that. So, there are plenty of great places, and I'm hoping that my career doesn't end with the St. Paul Saints, that I eventually catch on with a major league team, and then I can travel around to other ballparks. It's the goal of every broadcaster. So.
Yeah, and Milwaukee and Chicago are two new ballparks in the American 100%. Association, and I'm sure they're pushing the boundaries as well.
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. First of all, Chicago's done a tremendous job, and this is nice. This is I guess a compliment to the Saints. They took the architecture firm that built our ballpark to build theirs. So they saw some things in CHS Field they liked, and got the same architecture firm to design their ballpark. It's a beautiful ballpark in a great area. It's about 20 minutes or so outside of Chicago, so it's not in the heart of Chicago. Milwaukee, I'm willing to give them another year. The ballpark's okay. It's not great, but they had to rush to get it done. They were behind schedule. So I'm willing to give them a second year and hope that their goal is to build the entire area around that ballpark. Yeah. I think once they do that, it's going to be phenomenal. And I'm not trying to disparage Milwaukee. I just thought it was okay for a first-year ballpark. But again, as I've told everyone, I'm willing to give them a second year. I think it's going to be much better in year 2.
Yeah, I agree with you. When I went to Milwaukee, it felt like that whole area is under construction.
Yep.
And I would give it a couple years. Nashville, which is a AAA ballpark.
Yep.
When I first went there, that whole area was under construction and kind of going from one phase to another. 4 or 5 years later, the place is amazing.
Yeah.
So
no.
Same should be the same for Milwaukee in a similar fashion. Yeah, definitely agree with you on that.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually hit a bunch of parks in the American Association this summer. I was really upset I couldn't fit the Saints into my schedule, because after Mark had been talking up the Saints for years on this podcast, so it's like, yeah, we got to hit St. Paul.
I do.
It didn't work out, but we were able to hit Sioux City, Sioux Falls, and Lincoln on our
Lincoln. Yeah, we
Yeah,
did
and
Lincoln.
I love Lincoln and the
Yeah.
view of the football stadium out
Yeah, that
beyond
was
center
nice.
field. It's gorgeous. The basketball arena down the right field line. I give Sioux City a lot of credit. Look, there's not a lot to it, but they've put some money into that place. They've done a lot of what as much as they can for that area. I give them credit. Like I don't expect everyone to have a CHS field, right? That's unfair. But all I want you to do is try, and they've tried. Sioux Falls, they need a new ballpark in the worst way. They need it can't sustain it anymore. The organization knows it. Sanford, which is the big medical center down there that pretty much runs the city. And if you noticed in that ballpark, the Sanford Center in that parking lot.
Yep.
But Sanford is now stepping in, talking about wanting to build a new baseball ballpark in, I believe, the downtown areas where they'd like to build it. But whether that happens or not, I don't really know. But the folks with the Canaries know they need a new ballpark.
Yeah, that was the talk when I was there. And the
Yeah.
one other AA ballpark that I visited, and this kind of just popped into my head because they did something a little different this year, Grand Prairie, where they partnered with the Chinese national team.
Yeah, they actually started that last year. So
Yeah.
the first year they did that. They carried that over this year.
Didn't work out on the field too well.
No, and no one expected it to. I mean, I like what they're trying to do with that, but they're not ever going to be overly competitive. Here's what I'll say about Grand Prairie. They had the right idea when they built that ballpark 10 years ago. They just haven't had the right people in place to run that organization. And it's a shame too, because when I go there and they're literally not drawing, and it's painful to go there because it's a fine ballpark and you could do some things there, and you're in a major metropolitan area.
So I guess we could take this chance to thank Sean for coming on and check out the St. Paul Saints website. One of the best run organizations in all of independent baseball, and we were glad to have him on to talk a little bit about it. So we can get into where we've been since we last got together. So, Dave, would you like to start us off with where you've been in the last couple of weeks?
The
pressure.
It's a plethora of spots that I've been to. So on the 7th, it was to University Stadium, home of the Wilfrid Laurier Golden Hawks. And then on the 14th, it was to Warrior Field, home of the Waterloo Warriors. We had 2 Canadian University football games. That was it for me. Now, one of the things that's neat about Warrior Field this year, they're just opening a new field house. So definitely not common in Canadian University. There are tons, of course, all over the States and all over other places, but we don't have a lot of them. Maybe 1 or 2 that I can think of in Ontario, and UW is opening their own. And not that it's a huge help for the game day atmosphere or whatnot, but what it does 2 huge things. Number 1, it gives them permanent ticket window facility that is right there at the stadium, because the field house is actually immediately behind the stadium. And the other thing, and this is massive, and I cannot stress how important this is for all Canadian University football stadiums, you need this, a bathroom. They actually have plumbing.
They are important, yes.
Plumbing there. So gone are the porta potties. Now you can go in the nice field house and use the facilities if you need to. And maybe even more importantly than, using the facilities, there's a good spot to wash your hands after. So, yeah, that was it for me.
So wait a minute. So when they built this place, they built it without bathrooms?
Yeah. It's I call it permanently temporary. So a lot of bleachers, but really no plumbing facilities out there. So, that's kind of the way it goes out here is you want to build a program, similar. Last time we were on, I talked about Carleton. Carleton doesn't have any real washroom facilities either. It has porta potties. Now, to be fair, when I was at Western Michigan had a ton of porta potties. They did have some bathroom facilities, but a ton of porta potties.
Oh, that's always a black mark for me when you got to use a porta john.
Yeah, definitely. So this is big for Waterloo. They're a program that's on the rise. Not too long ago, they had basically mothballed the whole thing, and there was a bit of a steroid scandal that involved all of like 6 players or 8 players or whatever. So they tanked the whole team. Not the least of which in the situation was the president of the university, who was going on to become the governor general. He really wanted no black marks on his record. So they really had to start from scratch all over again. And even being like a rival for my guys, I give them a lot of credit. They've done a pretty good job of building their program and building some of the facilities to go along with it.
All right. So a little rest after some big trips for you.
Yeah, a little rest.
Nothing wrong with that. How about you, Mark? Where have you been the last couple of weeks? Anywhere exciting?
I did go to Schumann Stadium. That's the home of Ball State football. My original plan was to check out University of Illinois football and Eastern Illinois football. Those plans did not work out. But on the spur of the moment, I drove the 45 minutes to Muncie, Indiana. It was a beautiful afternoon, and it was a very nice crowd out there. If you check out the latest review, the fanfare score has risen quite extensively. It feels like every time I go out there in the past, it's late in the season when it's cold and nobody cares about the team. But it was a packed house, not a packed house, but it was a very, very large crowd. People were tailgating. Great enthusiasm at the game. $20 tickets to get in for adults. They also had a $30 combo package that included 2 craft beers from a local brewery in town. So, Ball State football, a nice looking stadium, nothing fancy, but it was the perfect day to see a game, and I had a lot of fun. And you can definitely check out the review and see what I liked about it.
That's one of only 4 spots that I have left for the Mid-America Conference in football.
Yeah, okay.
And after, by the time we come back next time, it'll be 3.
Oh, so, where are you going to next?
Next is Kent State. But yeah, and you know what? MAC football is, there's something to be said there. It's good. It's not as overwhelming as the big power conferences. It's a lot of fun. Without the big huge price points too, I might add.
There you go. That's
What'd you pay at Ball State, Mark?
It was $20. I actually, I'm going to tell you a little funny story. It was a $20 ticket, but I was wearing an Orlando City jersey, purple jersey. I stood out among the red that were at the game, and somebody from one of the tents called me over and he's like, "Hey, you got a ticket to the game?" I said, "No, not yet." And he goes, "Oh, here you go. Take one of our tickets." So I got in for free, and but yeah, it was $20 to get in. So
have
that was not bad.
Orlando City jersey will travel.
Have Orlando, so yeah, just wear this purple jersey. I guess people, purple is kind of that mutual colors. So.
Hey, and Sean has made it back with us. He found his way back.
That's my fault. I didn't check my how much battery I had left, so my computer died on me. So I had to find an outlet real quick. So that's my fault. I apologize.
No problem.
No problem at all, Sean.
We've seen a lot worse on this show. So
I'm sure.
So yeah, we were actually kind of just finishing up.
That's okay.
So we never got to really properly say goodbye to you, but before you disappear again, would you like to take a minute and promote your social media for yourself and for the Saints?
Yeah, no doubt. First of all, I want to thank you guys. I love what you do. I read what you guys write, and I think you guys do a tremendous job. For those people interested in checking out the St. Paul Saints, you can go to saintsbaseball.com. You can also follow us on every social media account out there at St. Paul Saints. And then for myself, I have a podcast that I do where I interview play-by-play broadcasters from the 4 major sports as well as the NCAA. I sit down with them in person. So I've interviewed everyone from Joe Buck to Doc Emmerich. to the regional broadcasters for every single team. And I've got about 170 episodes live right now. I'm trying to think. Sean McDonough. So I've interviewed a lot of guys, and you can find it. It's called The Voice Behind the Voice. So Apple, iTunes, wherever you get your podcast, and then you can follow me on Twitter at The Voice BTV. So at The Voice BTV. So if people want to check it out.
Wow, that's great. I'm definitely gonna have to check that out, Sean.
Yeah. So,
and
go ahead.
I was just going to thank you for coming on, and we'd love to have you on again sometime. And
yeah, thank you very much. And if you have me on again, I promise that my battery will be full, and I won't drop the call. But thank you guys. You guys have been tremendous. Keep up the great work with everything you do, and I look forward to seeing the ballparks that you travel to in the future.
All right. And congrats on your championship and your wonderful parade, Sean.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Bye, guys.
All right, that's Sean Aronson from the St. Paul Saints. So glad we got to have a proper goodbye.
Yeah, that was a great conversation. It's the Saints are one of those organizations I've always sort of looked up to, and that was great to have somebody come on here and share in great detail the ins and outs of that organization. Because he's right. If everybody could do what the Saints do, my God, independent baseball would be killing it right now. Sure. A lot do. But.
And for those of you who are, affiliated baseball snobs, man, there is some great other, a lot, Mark, a lot of great other baseball all across the country in places you may not expect.
Oh, you're just gonna call me out there live on the show, huh? Just like that.
You're not only an affiliated snob, Dave. You don't do anything below AAA. You said
no.
Well, I've dabbled.
The London Rippers ruined him forever. Is that what happened?
Well, yeah. I've got two other teams too. I got the London Rippers, and in the very, 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 very short-lived Canadian Baseball League, I got the London Monarchs and the Niagara Stars. Which you know what, I enjoyed those, but
well,
you got to pay the bills, and apparently they weren't paying the bills. So
there you go.
The All-Star game, that was it.
No, and I think he's right. Some people build a stadium kind of like in High Point, North Carolina, and they just expect people to come. I wish that organization the best, but I want to see what they do for year two, because I think attendance was a little bit below what they had expected this year.
And that's something that I've thought about Indy baseball, and I do not know enough about it, but it just seems to me to be a terrific risk for a team like the Chicago Dogs or the Milwaukee Milkmen to go out and invest millions and millions and millions of dollars on a structure without having the backing of, like you said with the Saints, they had all these years before they built a ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
So to go like Chicago, like Milwaukee, to go into a major league market and build a minor league facility for a minor league team that has no other connection for that city, from a business perspective, that seems like a really tall order to me.
Well, it depends who you talk to, because a lot of these leagues do well outside of major league cities. I mean, the New York area. New York has Long Island. They have Somerset. They have Rockland. They have the Jackals. Philadelphia had Camden at one point.
Yeah, but New York also has more people than any other city in the United States.
Well, Chicago, I mean, they have Windy City, Schaumburg, Gary. Those are other independent ball clubs. And surprisingly enough, Gary draws pretty well. If Gary was in a nicer area, it probably would draw a few more people. But a lot of people in Northeast Indiana do not want to drive into Chicago, deal with the traffic, pay $5 across the bridge, pay whatever tolls they pop up on those roads up there.
$40 to park and all that stuff.
$40 to park. They just go to Gary and watch the game. There's cheap beer. Devil's Trumpet Brewery has a stand out there. I think the ballpark can use a little touch up, but it's almost like a niche market. It works sometimes and it doesn't. I think you need to have great management, kind of like the Saints, to kind of get that message out there to the fans. but you're right. It is a risky move. I see High Point being risky, but then you got Sugarland. What the heck is Sugarland, which is right outside of Houston, doing in the Atlantic League, which is Pennsylvania and New Jersey teams?
The plan was to have a couple teams out there so they could have some local friends, but
I mean, what are they waiting for? I mean,
yeah,
they should join the American
investors.
Association.
Yeah. Exactly, it would make more sense.
That's what has to be. I don't know the inside scoop, but that had to have been a big issue for the Canadian Baseball League. Is they had a team in Victoria, they had a team in Saskatoon, they had a team in Calgary, they had a team in Niagara, they had a team in London, they had a team in
Montreal. They never played there.
Floating around Montreal, apparently. A team in Trois-Rivières. Making that road trip.
And crowds of about 1,000 people.
The travel stinks.
But and so making that travel schedule from Trois-Rivières to Victoria, that's a 3-day bus ride.
Yeah, and a lot of those markets now are in the Collegiate League, and they're succeeding. Calgary market and the Victoria market.
And Calgary was a AAA market.
That was a AAA, yeah. That was a AAA. So, the only trying to think, and I think Winnipeg and Ottawa. Yeah, in Ottawa, we've heard their trials and tribulations. They just happen to play in a stadium that is, I think, past its usefulness. They probably need a new stadium, but is ownership going to build that? Is the city?
The city won't build it.
No, they
just go ask Gene Melnick how much money he's getting from the city to.
Yeah. It's not going to happen
to upgrade the Senators, but
yeah.
And maybe maybe I am a little snobby, and we do have in Ontario we have inter-county baseball, and it's been around. Kitchener Panthers
100 years,
1919.
Yeah, 100 years.
One of the reasons it's successful is all those guys can take the bus and sleep in their own bed at night, right? So bus ride to Burlington from Kitchener, an hour.
Yeah.
Your business model has to be on point in these leagues. You can't be too big. It's killed bigger leagues than the Canadian Independent League.
Yeah, and for all those people listening, the Somerset Patriots, they drew $5,000. They do an amazing job. I grew up 15 miles away from the ballpark. They have been killing it for 20 years. Some of the biggest crowds you'll see in independent baseball are there. Long Island does a fabulous job. York, Lancaster. So there's a lot of other great independent ballparks and ball clubs, but the Empire State League, I don't know if that's something you want to
if you like
hype
going to a ball
up.
game with 12 people there.
And I've been, one of my worst baseball experiences was at the Lake County Fielders, which was in Zion, Illinois, just in the northern suburbs of Chicago. That stadium wasn't even built yet, and they were playing baseball games there. And then I think a couple nights after I went to the game, the radio announcer quit on air.
Yeah, that was legendary.
9 players left. I think Jose Canseco was with the visiting team, which was from California, and he offered to pitch for the other team. So, the good and bad of independent baseball. And I guess, you're only as strong as your weakest team. And Saints are definitely the strongest team, and I think the American Association will figure out what to do with some of those weaker teams to make them much better in the future as we head into the 20s.
Yeah.
Well, and here's how independent baseball will go head to head with sort of how major sports is changing. One of the things I see is how in the NBA, it's becoming more and more about the players and getting the fans to be fans of the players. So, Mark, you teach at a high school. How many of those kids are not Laker fans, but they're LeBron James fans, or they're James Harden fans, or they're Kevin Durant
Stephen Curry.
Right?
Yep. No, you're right.
Whoever, take your pick. You can't be a fan of the players in independent ball. You have to be a fan of the team, because who knows how long those guys are there? A year, 2 years, 3 years, maybe? You can't hang on to those guys. So you gotta love the laundry.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys are playing in what some people term the bottom of the ninth. They're guys in their 30s and they're still trying to hang on. I don't know. I know the Atlantic League was sort of like that at one point, but baseball as a whole. I mean, I don't have a lot of kids that have major league baseball players as their favorite athletes. It's usually football and it's basketball. So I think baseball as a whole, what I see with independent baseball is if you could put a team in a certain market and you can attract people there for an entertainment night aside from the movies or going out to eat or going to the amusement park, that's where you're going to be successful. If you go into an area where you have other options with baseball, like in Chicago, you may see some plus and minuses. If you have affordable tickets, we didn't even talk about the ticket price plan. It's $6 to get into a St. Paul Saints game. That's crazy. Now that's a lawn seat, but $6 to see a baseball game in 2019 and into 2020.
That's cheaper than to go to the Kitchener Panthers.
That's cheaper to go to, yeah, exactly, to go to some other independent ball clubs. I don't think that's how. For me to go to AAA baseball, I'm paying $10 for a lawn seat.
Oh, wait a second. You said $6 American?
$6.
Yeah, no, it's about the same price.
Yeah, $6 American. So, you have some families, and then we'd even talk about the beer dabbler. I think it's 40 taps of local Minnesota beer in this one section of the ballpark, and you may have people just go in there to just get lit up during the games.
There you go.
It is highly impressive, that beer dabbler.
That's awesome. So from the beer dabbler, I guess we'll pivot into to where I dabbled the last couple of weeks.
Oh, there you go.
So, let's see. I didn't go very many places. This is the time of year where I'm waiting for hockey to start and really to get going. So I did go to the first ever finals appearance by the Lowell Spinners at LeLacheur Park. So that was interesting. They ended up losing the game, and they lost the series to the Brooklyn Cyclones. So the Cyclones were the New York Penn League champions. Won't get into LeLacheur Park. Typical. What's funny about minor league baseball, I'm going to jump into it a little bit, is how the playoffs don't mean a damn thing.
No, they don't.
And you go to a playoff game, and this has happened. I've been to playoffs in Indy ball and AAA, AA, and single A, and you get 500 people there for a playoff game. It's really a strange phenomenon. And compare it to minor league hockey, where I have been to a sold out Dunkin' Donuts Center for a Calder Cup Finals game. So it's really funny, the dichotomy and just the non-emphasis on the playoffs. You could probably just Labor Day comes, all right, season's over, everybody go home. We don't care. We don't need a champion. So let's see. Last weekend from there, I went to some Major League Lacrosse. So I got to see the beginning of the PLL,
the new
the
stadium,
Professional Lacrosse League, and I got to go to, not the finale, but pretty close to it, of the Major League Lacrosse is Boston Cannons. They have moved. They are the only original MLL team still in their same city, believe it or not. The MLL downsized to 6 teams this year. Boston was one of them. They moved to Veterans Memorial Stadium, which is in Quincy, Mass., which is a suburb about 10 miles away from Boston on the South Shore. An old place, so old that it was built during the WPA, Works Progress Administration, back in the 30s. From the outside, it looks very much like a 1930s vintage stadium. It's got a big brick wall. It's got the wrought iron gates you go in. But inside, the city and the Cannons have invested millions of dollars in it, and it's actually a very nice place to go see a game. I had actually been there once before for a band competition. One of my daughters was in the not the marching band. What's the flag wavers? What are they called?
Color Guard.
Color Guard. Yeah, thank you. If she listens to this, she's going to say, what? Went to a competition there, and it was very much at the time, this was maybe 10 years ago, not wooden bleachers, but old metal bleachers, very uncomfortable, not much to really talk about. The Cannons and the city of Quincy have put some money into it. There are nice, comfortable seats. Leg room. I have never been in a place with this much leg room. I could stretch my legs all the way out. Now, granted, I have short legs, but I could stretch them all the way out and not hit the seat in front of me. Never been in a place with that much leg room before. Brand new sound system, brand new video board. And one thing about this experience was the crowd was in constant motion. Kids with lacrosse sticks playing catch, and they had a fan fest with actually even live music before the game, which was a nice treat.
Wow.
Kids playing cornhole, had a pop-a-shot with the lacrosse sticks. So a lot of activity, a lot of distraction from the game. And I'm a lacrosse fan anyway, so I don't need the distraction. But it was a fun time. My one quibble would be the price. It was pretty pricey, at least in my mind. The cheapest tickets were $30.
Yeah, that's kind of steep.
Even with free parking and
football
cheap
lines. food.
Yeah, well, it's a place that gets used for soccer and football, and the Quincy High School and North Quincy High School both use it for their home field, so it gets a lot of use. So yeah, you got the football lines and the soccer lines and the lacrosse lines. That's never fun. But yeah, a little pricey, but all in all, a very fun time, and I'd go back. They've got one more game than the regular season. I would head back there if I wasn't already doing something. The MLL is doing their championship weekend up in Denver. So they're playing the two semifinal games, I think, on a Friday, and then the championship game on a Sunday. So just like the NCAA does it on the Final Four. So
I don't
yeah, the
recall
NLL
it
is
being
drafting tonight.
I don't recall Major League Lacrosse being in Denver for their championship weekend ever. It always seems to be in Annapolis.
Yeah. So I mean, they're leading the league in attendance. They're
Hey,
having
no,
a
good
great
on
year.
them.
So yeah, and lacrosse is growing like wildfire out in that area.
Yeah, Denver does extremely well. They play at Mile High Stadium.
Yeah, well, extremely well. If you want to call an average
Yeah.
of 7,000 fans a game.
Well,
extremely
7,000 is good, yeah.
But yeah, and that's where I think the Cannons have gotten it right, because in the past they played at Harvard Stadium, at Gillette Stadium, and even if you get a crowd of 10,000, which is a great crowd, you put it in Gillette Stadium, man, and it's just bouncing off the wall. The sound is bouncing off the walls. So you stick a crowd of 4,000 or 5,000 in a 5,000, 6,000 seat place, you got a great atmosphere, and I think that's where they did it right.
Yeah. Well, I remember in 2001 when the league started, they had the New Jersey Pride, and they played at Somerset Patriots, which was an independent ballpark. And then they played over at New Jersey Jackals, which was another independent ballpark. Every year the team moved around until they just disappeared. So, yeah, you have to get it right.
Yeah, that was the fate of a lot of MLL teams.
MLL, yeah.
I always mix the way I remember it is N for indoor. That's how I remember.
No. Well,
that's how I try to differentiate the two. And then this past Saturday, I went up to Bryant University in Smithfield, Rhode Island, caught a game at the newly rechristened, 2 years ago, the Bearn Stadium. So it was called Bulldog Stadium, but one of the donors, one of the boosters, gave a nice sum of money. So they named the stadium after him. Must be nice. Yeah. The one thing, it's a typical FCS ballpark stadium. Not much there. It's, seats about 5,000. They've done a lot of improvements, so now it actually looks like a stadium. It used to be this big empty field where there was just football field and a big grandstand. Now they've landscaped it, got it closed in on the other side, got a nice training center on one end. So it's a nice place, cheap, like you said, Mark. $15 to see a game, so that's a big draw. Laid back atmosphere. It's what you would expect from an FCS place in New England.
Nice.
So that's where I have been. So that just about does it for us this week. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I want to thank Sean Aronson for joining us. That was a great conversation.
That was very nice.
From the St. Paul Saints. Dan is not talking tonight. He's feeling very much under the weather. We thank him for continuing to engineer for us, though. I hope he's wearing his little train hat. And you can follow him on Twitter at DanLaw83. And Mark, how about you? Any stadium journeys planned the next couple of weeks? Where can our listeners follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Ballpark Hunter. This weekend I am in Minneapolis for a wedding, and I am going to check out the Twins on Saturday. I hope that works out. And yeah, it's going to be like in and out and going to see a Twins game and coming back Sunday. So let's just hope everything works out. I don't want to say I'm going to do it and then I don't do it, but I'll definitely be up there. I don't care what the wife says. And I was hoping to get to some college football. It's that time of year again. I do want to still make it out to Eastern Illinois sometime this year. So I'm hoping next Saturday will be that visit. And, I got a week off from school coming up soon. So may just take those little longer trips to some fields we need to cover.
All right, Dave, how about you? Any stadium journeys planned? Where can our listeners follow your journeys?
Yeah, on Friday, I'm taking my nephew for his birthday to the first game of the season for the Kitchener Rangers. Hockey is back.
Woo!
So that's pretty exciting. And then on the weekend, taking my dad for his little birthday trip, and it's to Dick Stadium, home of the Kent State Golden Flashes, so we're heading there. And then ESPN totally hosed our backup or our second day plan, which was to go to the Cleveland Indians until they decided to make it a 6 o'clock game, which makes no sense because the Browns are playing that night too. So Cleveland is going to be absolutely crazy. So it looks like we're going to stop at Comerica Park on the way home for the Detroit Tigers and the Chicago White Sox. And then my absolute last baseball game of the season is going to be on the Monday because, you know, it's gift-giving season. So my wife got a hold of tickets in the TD Clubhouse section, which is the bougie section behind home plate in the second deck. And we're taking my father-in-law and my sister for their birthdays to see the Jays and Orioles. So there's actually like a 40% chance that the Jays could win this game. Mm-hmm. And then following that, it is homecoming at Laurier for some Laurier Golden Hawks football. And you can follow all of that stuff on Twitter and Instagram at ProFan9.
Speaking of last baseball games, I have 2 tickets to a Red Sox game on September the 28th that I cannot use. If anybody wants them, hit me up on Twitter at PuckmanRI. As far as where I'm going for games next couple of weeks, let's see. Saturday, I'm going to the second ever Division I home game for the newest FCS team in the country, the Merrimack Warriors. So they're playing at Dwayne Stadium. They played one game, home game already, had a standing room only crowd. Looking forward to see what this weekend would bring for them. And next weekend, hockey season starts for me too. I can't make the Red Sox because of some family commitments, but I can make the Providence Bruins that night. They've got a preseason game at the Dunk, so it'll be my first game up at the Dunkin' Donuts Center this year. And like I said, you can follow my stadium journeys, Twitter or Instagram at PuckmanRI. And don't forget to check out our website because that's kind of why we're here. You know, support the website, stadiumjourney.com. And you can follow us on our social media channels. Facebook, Twitter, Dan, I'm sorry, you distracted me there. Instagram at Stadium Journey. You can find the Stadium Journey podcast and all the other HIAC Talk Radio content at vocnation.com. And you follow us on Twitter, of course, at HIAC Talk Radio. Join us for our next show on October 1st when we are joined by Kelly Levy and the rest of the Obey the Puck crew. Yeah, not September 31st, Dave, right?
No.
It's a crossover hockey episode. So thanks again to Sean Aronson for joining us tonight. And for Dan Colachico, Mark Viquez, and Dave Cotney, I'm Paul Baker wishing you all close games and safe journeys.